Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. The room is quiet now, held gently in the low light of night. The last glow from the window thins and softens, no longer sharp enough to define edges clearly. Curtains rest where they always do, easing the light into something dimmer, something calmer. The walls remain still, absorbing shadow rather than reflecting it. Furniture sits quietly in familiar places, unchanged, unhurried. Nothing moves, nothing asks for attention. As darkness settles, it does so gradually, not as an absence, but as a presence. A lowering of intensity, a softening of contrast. The shapes in the room remain, but they lose urgency. Lines blur slightly, corners become gentler. The world narrows to what is near, what is contained within these quiet walls. Closed eyelids mirror the dimness of the space, creating an inner darkness that feels consistent with the room itself. This transition into darkness is not merely visual, it is biological. As light fades, the retina sends fewer signals to regions of the brain associated with alertness and wakefulness. Specialized cells in the eyes respond directly to light levels, and when illumination drops, their activity decreases. This reduced signaling allows wake-promoting pathways to quiet naturally, without effort or force. Darkness communicates safety through absence of stimulation. In low light, the nervous system begins to shift its balance. The parasympathetic branch, responsible for rest and recovery, becomes more dominant as external input diminishes. Heart rate trends downward. Muscle tone softens. Breathing patterns often grow slower and more even, responding to the quieter sensory environment. These changes occur without conscious direction. The body recognizes darkness as a signal that vigilance is no longer required. The bedroom holds this process gently. The walls do not echo. The air does not move abruptly. Curtains continue to filter what little light remains, preventing sudden brightness from breaking the calm. Furniture offers familiar silhouettes, grounding without demanding attention. Everything present is known, predictable, unchanged from the night before. The environment reinforces what the nervous system already understands. Darkness has long served this role in human experience. It is not emptiness, but reduction. Fewer visual signals, fewer contrasts, fewer reasons for the mind to scan or assess. With less incoming information, internal systems can slow their constant monitoring. The brain no longer needs to interpret shapes or distances with precision. It can rest within uncertainty, supported by the consistency of the space. Closed eyelids contribute to this quiet continuity. They create a boundary between the external room and the internal world, yet the two remain aligned. The dimness behind closed eyes matches the dimness beyond them. There is no conflict between inner and outer environments. This alignment further supports parasympathetic dominance, allowing the body to remain settled rather than alert. Scientific observation shows that low light conditions help maintain this state. Reduced retinal input leads to decreased activity in brain regions associated with arousal. At the same time, parasympathetic influence becomes more pronounced, supporting digestion, cellular repair, and immune regulation. These processes operate most efficiently when external demands are minimal. Darkness provides that condition by default. The bedroom remains unchanged throughout this transition. Curtains stay drawn, walls remain quiet, furniture does not intrude. The room does not expand or contract. It simply holds. There is safety in this consistency, a subtle reassurance that nothing new is required. The environment offers permission to remain still, This channel exists within that same intention, a place where science is present without urgency, where information arrives softly, anchored in what can be seen, felt, or understood without effort. Calm here is not emptiness, but gentle occupation, enough to keep the mind from wandering, not enough to stimulate it awake. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to subscribe, and if you feel comfortable, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. For now, the pace continues to slow, carried by the same darkness that fills the room. The last traces of light fade completely from the window. Curtains hold only shadow now. Walls rest in even tones. Furniture dissolves into familiar outlines. Closed eyelids reflect the same gentle dark. The nervous system remains supported by low light and stillness. Parasympathetic signals continuing their steady work beneath awareness. Nothing needs to change from here. The room has done its part. The darkness has done its part. The body follows, as it always has. I'm glad you're here. The room continues exactly as it was, only darker now. The remaining shadows have settled into place, no longer shifting or thinning. Along the walls, darkness gathers evenly, smoothing edges and softening contrasts. The ceiling rests above without definition, its surface blending gently into the surrounding dimness. Nothing stands out, nothing recedes. The space feels held rather than observed. In this deeper darkness, the nervous system responds quietly. Reduced light lowers activity in the sympathetic nervous system, the branch associated with readiness and rapid response. This shift does not happen suddenly or dramatically. It unfolds gradually as fewer visual signals reach the brain. With less information arriving through the eyes, there is less reason for the body to remain alert. The systems responsible for scanning and reacting begin to ease their output. As sympathetic activity diminishes, parasympathetic influence increases. This branch of the nervous system supports rest, digestion, and restoration. It operates most effectively when external stimulation is low. Darkness provides exactly that condition. The steady absence of light removes the need for constant adjustment, allowing internal rhythms to settle into slower, more stable patterns. The bedroom supports this change without interruption. Wall shadows remain still, no longer shifting with passing light. The ceiling does not reflect brightness or movement. Darkness becomes uniform, creating a sense of continuity rather than contrast. This consistency allows the body to remain oriented without effort. There is no need to track changes or anticipate movement. The environment communicates that nothing unexpected is occurring. Scientific observation shows that low light conditions consistently reduce sympathetic nervous system output. Measurements of heart rate variability often increase in darkness, reflecting stronger parasympathetic influence. This balance shift supports physiological processes associated with recovery. Blood pressure trends downward, muscular tension decreases subtly. Breathing patterns often become more regular, responding to the absence of stimulation rather than conscious control. These changes occur beneath awareness. They are not decisions. They are responses. The body has evolved to interpret darkness as a period when vigilance can safely diminish. Over countless generations, nightfall signaled reduced activity and increased rest. That pattern remains embedded in neural circuitry. When light fades, the nervous system follows familiar pathways toward calm. The shadows on the walls remain consistent, neither advancing nor retreating. The ceiling holds its quiet presence, offering no new detail. Darkness does not deepen further, but stabilizes. This stability is important. Fluctuating light can maintain sympathetic activity, keeping the body in a state of readiness. Steady darkness, by contrast, supports parasympathetic dominance by removing unpredictability. Within this environment, the mind no longer needs to interpret visual complexity. With fewer signals arriving, cognitive load decreases. Attention does not need to shift or refocus. The brain can maintain a low, steady level of processing without escalation. This reduction in demand contributes to the overall settling of the nervous system. Research into autonomic regulation shows that parasympathetic activity increases reliably in low-light environments. This shift supports immune function, tissue repair, and metabolic regulation. These processes are not urgent. They require time and stability rather than speed. Darkness provides a context in which they can proceed without interruption. The bedroom remains unchanged as this internal adjustment continues. Walls do not intrude. Shadows do not move. The ceiling offers no stimulus. Everything present is already known. Familiarity reduces the need for assessment. When surroundings are predictable, the nervous system can allocate fewer resources to monitoring, allowing restorative functions to take precedence. This state of initial bodily settling does not involve complete stillness. It is not an absence of activity, but a redistribution. Energy shifts away from outward readiness and toward inward maintenance. The parasympathetic system does not shut anything down completely. It simply adjusts priorities, favoring processes that support long-term balance. Darkness plays a central role in this transition. By lowering retinal input, it reduces activation in pathways that promote wakefulness. By remaining steady, it prevents reactivation of alert systems. The result is a gradual, sustained movement toward physiological calm. This movement does not require effort or intention. It unfolds as a natural consequence of environmental conditions. The shadows along the walls now feel less like shapes and more like a continuous presence. The ceiling blends fully into the surrounding dark. There is no contrast left to resolve. This uniformity further reduces sensory demand. With fewer distinctions to process, the nervous system maintains its parasympathetic orientation. The body responds accordingly. Sympathetic signals remain low. Parasympathetic activity continues to increase, supporting gentle internal rhythms. This balance does not fluctuate quickly. It stabilizes, reinforcing itself over time. The longer darkness remains consistent, the more securely the nervous system settles into this mode. Nothing in the room disrupts this process. No new light appears. No shadows shift. The environment remains aligned with the body's internal state. This alignment is key to maintaining calm without conscious involvement. When external conditions support internal regulation, the system can remain balanced without correction. The bedroom holds this state quietly. Darkness does not press in or expand. It simply stays. The nervous system responds in kind, maintaining parasympathetic dominance as long as stimulation remains low. This is not a transition that ends abruptly. It is a gradual settling that deepens through consistency rather than change. Everything remains as it is. Walls, ceiling, and shadows continue their quiet presence. The body continues its subtle adjustments. The nervous system remains oriented toward rest, supported by darkness that asks nothing and offers stability. The darkness in the room no longer shifts at all. It has settled into a stable presence, even and complete. Shadows do not lengthen or recede. They remain exactly where they are, unchanging. The air stays silent, without movement or disturbance. The ceiling line holds steady above, neither emerging nor disappearing, simply existing within the same low light as everything else. This lack of change carries meaning for the nervous system. Predictable environments reduce threat monitoring because there is nothing new to evaluate. When surroundings remain consistent, the brain does not need to scan for variation or prepare for response. Stability itself becomes information. It signals that the environment is safe enough to remain as it is. Lower sensory input further supports this signal. With little visual detail to process, vigilance demands decrease naturally. The brain does not need to distinguish objects, track motion, or interpret contrast. Darkness simplifies perception, reducing the amount of incoming data. This simplification allows internal systems to remain calm rather than alert. The room communicates this message continuously. Unchanging shadows provide no surprises. Silent air offers no interruption. The steady ceiling line creates a sense of containment, a clear boundary that does not shift or dissolve. Everything present behaves in a way that can be anticipated, and anticipation itself fades when nothing requires it. Scientific observation shows that predictable environments consistently lower activity in neural circuits associated with threat detection. When sensory input remains stable, the brain reduces its monitoring of potential danger. This reduction is not a conscious decision. It is an automatic adjustment shaped by long-standing biological patterns. Stability allows systems designed for protection to rest. Darkness amplifies this effect by limiting sensory complexity. Lower sensory input decreases vigilance demands, freeing resources that would otherwise be allocated to scanning and interpretation. The absence of movement and contrast means there is nothing to track. The nervous system can maintain a low level of alertness without risk. This builds directly on the bodily calm already present. Parasympathetic activity established earlier continues uninterrupted, supported now not only by low light, but by predictability. Calm deepens when it is reinforced by consistency. The body recognizes that nothing has changed and nothing needs to change. The unchanging shadows along the walls reinforce this understanding. They do not suggest movement or intrusion. They remain soft and even, blending into the surrounding darkness. The silent air does not carry vibration or disturbance. The ceiling line stays fixed, offering a quiet sense of structure without drawing attention. In environments where conditions fluctuate, the nervous system remains partially engaged, prepared to respond. Here, fluctuation is absent. The sameness of the space allows threat monitoring to remain minimal. The brain does not need to compare the present moment to the last one. They are effectively identical. Research in sensory processing shows that when input remains constant, neural responses diminish over time. This process, known as habituation, reduces the perceived importance of unchanging stimuli. Darkness, when stable, becomes background rather than signal. It stops demanding processing and allows awareness to soften. This softening is not emptiness. It is a state where the mind does not need to orient outward. With vigilance demands reduced, internal rhythms can continue without interference. The nervous system maintains balance not by effort, but by absence of disturbance. The room continues to support this state passively. Nothing in the environment contradicts the message of safety. There are no new shadows, no shifts in tone, no emerging details. The silent air remains neutral. The ceiling line remains steady, providing continuity without stimulation. Predictability strengthens calm because it removes uncertainty. When the environment behaves exactly as expected, the brain no longer needs to prepare for alternative outcomes. Threat monitoring systems quiet further, conserving energy and attention. This allows parasympathetic dominance to persist and stabilize. Lower sensory input plays a complementary role. With fewer signals arriving, there is less opportunity for misinterpretation or overreaction. The nervous system does not need to differentiate between relevant and irrelevant stimuli because almost nothing arrives at all. Darkness filters the world down to its simplest form. This simplicity supports a sense of safety that does not rely on reassurance or evaluation. It arises from direct experience of consistency. The room behaves the same moment after moment. The body responds by maintaining calm without escalation. The unchanging shadows become familiar without being noticed. The silent air becomes expected. The steady ceiling line remains present without drawing focus. These elements do not compete for attention. They quietly affirm that the environment is stable. As this affirmation continues, vigilance remains low. Threat monitoring stays minimal. The nervous system does not need to prepare for action. It remains oriented toward maintenance and balance, supported by the predictable darkness. Nothing new enters the space. Nothing exits. The room remains exactly as it is, and that constancy carries the message of safety more effectively than any signal could. The body recognizes this message through reduced monitoring and sustained calm. Darkness holds steady. The room remains unchanged. Predictability continues, reinforcing the quiet understanding that there is no need to be alert. Everything necessary for calm is already present, and nothing demands response. Darkness now rests behind closed eyes, complete and uninterrupted. There is no variation in shade, no flicker or change. The space behind the eyelids mirrors the room itself, steady and quiet. Facial muscles soften without direction. The brow remains smooth. The jaw rests without tension. Breath continues at an even pace, unforced, moving gently through still air. Within this steadiness, regulation begins to shift inward. With external light absent, the body turns its attention to internal signals. Darkness stimulates the release of melatonin, a hormone closely tied to the body's internal sense of night. Melatonin is produced by the pineal gland in response to low light, increasing gradually as darkness persists. This release does not occur all at once. It unfolds slowly, following the consistency of the environment. Melatonin supports circadian timing, helping the body distinguish night from day without the need for conscious awareness. It acts as an internal marker, reinforcing patterns that align physiology with darkness. As melatonin levels rise, they influence multiple systems at once, gently coordinating processes that benefit from reduced stimulation and increased stability. Closed eyes support this transition by maintaining darkness even in the presence of subtle ambient light. They ensure that retinal input remains minimal, allowing melatonin production to continue without interruption. This consistency is important. Irregular light exposure can suppress melatonin release, delaying internal alignment. Steady darkness, by contrast, allows hormonal signals to progress smoothly. The face remains relaxed throughout this process. Muscles do not need to hold expression or readiness. there is no requirement for alertness. Slow breath continues, responding to internal rhythms rather than external cues. Still, air offers no disturbance. The body remains supported by the same conditions that initiated earlier settling. Scientific observation shows that melatonin release follows environmental darkness closely. When light levels remain low, secretion increases, reinforcing the body's internal sense of night. This hormonal signal does not induce sleep directly. Instead, it prepares the system by adjusting temperature regulation, metabolic activity, and neural signaling toward a state compatible with rest. Melatonin's role in circadian timing is foundational. It helps synchronize internal processes, ensuring that physiological functions align with expected cycles. This synchronization reduces internal conflict. When systems operate on the same schedule, fewer adjustments are required. Energy can be conserved rather than redirected toward correction. The absence of visual input allows this coordination to proceed without interference. Closed eyes maintain darkness, preventing sudden changes that could disrupt hormonal flow. The relaxed face reflects this internal alignment. There is no need for vigilance when hormonal signals indicate safety and predictability. Breath remains slow and regular, influenced indirectly by melatonin's effects on autonomic balance. Parasympathetic activity continues to dominate, supporting calm internal rhythms. Still, air provides no stimulus to alter breathing patterns. Everything present reinforces continuity rather than change. This marks a shift from external to internal regulation. Earlier, the environment reduced sensory input and stabilized the nervous system. Now, hormonal signals take on a more prominent role, guiding internal timing independent of external observation. Darkness becomes not just a condition, but a signal interpreted chemically within the body. Melatonin does not operate in isolation. It interacts with other systems, subtly adjusting alertness and responsiveness. Neural activity associated with wakefulness decreases gradually, not abruptly. This gradual change prevents disruption, allowing the body to move toward rest without resistance. Closed eyes remain central to this process. They ensure that darkness is preserved consistently, allowing melatonin release to continue. Facial muscles stay relaxed, reflecting reduced neural drive to maintain expression or readiness. Breath continues its steady rhythm, supported by parasympathetic dominance. Research consistently shows that melatonin release is sensitive to light exposure. Even small increases in light can suppress production. The maintenance of darkness is therefore essential for uninterrupted hormonal signaling. In this steady environment, melatonin levels can rise naturally, reinforcing internal timing without external reference. The stillness of the air contributes to this inward focus. Without movement or sound, attention does not shift outward. Internal processes proceed without competition. The body does not need to reconcile conflicting signals. Everything aligns toward the same quiet state. This internal regulation supports continuity. Circadian timing remains intact when melatonin release follows predictable patterns. The body recognizes darkness as a reliable signal, not a temporary condition. This reliability strengthens internal coordination, allowing systems to remain synchronized over time. The face remains at rest. Breath remains slow. Darkness remains complete. Hormonal signals continue their gradual work, supporting internal balance. There is no urgency in this process. It unfolds according to established rhythms shaped by consistent environmental cues. Nothing in the space interrupts this shift. Closed eyes maintain darkness. Still air offers no change. The body continues to respond internally, guided by melatonin and circadian timing, rather than external input. This is not a moment of transition marked by movement or decision. It is a continuation, a deepening of the same calm established earlier. External demands have receded. Internal regulation now leads, supported by darkness that remains steady and complete. With eyes closed and resting, vision is no longer engaged in interpretation. There is no image to resolve, no contrast to compare. Soft eyelids remain still, creating a consistent barrier between the visual system and the external world. Darkness behind them is stable and complete, offering no detail for the eyes to follow. Vision, in this state, is not active. It is at rest. In low light conditions, rod cells dominate visual processing. These cells are highly sensitive to light, but do not resolve fine detail or color. Their role is detection rather than precision. In complete or near complete darkness, even rod activity diminishes because there is little information to detect. With no meaningful signal arriving, the visual system reduces its output naturally. There is nothing to analyze, nothing to sharpen. This reduction changes how the eyes behave. When visual input is minimal, eye movements decrease. The small, constant adjustments normally made to track detail or stabilize images become unnecessary. Reduced eye movement lowers energy demand, easing the workload of the muscles and neural circuits involved in vision. The eyes are no longer working to see. They are simply present, inactive. Soft eyelids reflect this state. They do not tighten or flutter. Muscles around the eyes remain relaxed, responding to the absence of demand, without visual targets. The system has no reason to remain engaged. Darkness becomes a condition in which vision can disengage completely, conserving energy rather than consuming it. Scientific observation shows that visual processing is one of the more energy-intensive tasks performed by the brain during wakefulness. When visual input drops, neural activity associated with interpretation and movement decreases as well. This reduction allows resources to be reallocated or conserved. The visual system does not shut down abruptly. It settles, matching the simplicity of the environment. Rod cells, adapted for low light conditions, remain available but quiet. They are capable of detecting faint signals if necessary, but in stable darkness, their activity remains low. There is no shifting brightness to register, no movement to detect. The absence of detail reinforces the absence of effort. This supports the inward focus already established. Earlier changes reduced external stimulation and stabilized internal rhythms. Now, vision itself withdraws from active participation. The eyes are no longer scanning or adjusting. They remain still, supported by darkness that does not ask them to respond. The absence of visual detail matters. When the eyes encounter complexity, even subtle complexity, they engage reflexively. Shapes, edges, and contrasts all trigger micro-movements and interpretive processes. Stable darkness removes these triggers entirely. There is nothing to latch onto. Vision rests because there is nothing to do. Reduced eye movement contributes directly to calm. Eye muscles are closely linked to attentional systems. When the eyes are active, attention tends to follow. When the eyes are still, attention does not need to orient outward. This stillness supports a broader quieting of the nervous system without requiring deliberate control. Rod-dominated vision is not concerned with clarity. It is designed for awareness in dim conditions, not for detailed analysis. In complete darkness, even this mode becomes unnecessary. The visual system recognizes that no useful information is available and reduces its activity accordingly. Soft eyelids maintain this condition reliably. They prevent stray light from stimulating retinal cells. This consistency allows the visual system to remain disengaged. There are no sudden signals to interpret, no changes requiring response. Vision remains passive. Energy demand decreases as a result. Reduced neural firing, reduced muscle movement, reduced processing. The body benefits from this conservation. Resources are no longer directed toward maintaining visual awareness. Instead, they support internal processes already underway. The stable darkness behind closed eyes reinforces predictability. There is no variation to monitor. The visual field does not change from moment to moment. This sameness further reduces the likelihood of spontaneous eye movement. The system remains settled because nothing interrupts it. This resting state of vision is not emptiness. It is a functional pause. The eyes remain capable, but inactive. Rod cells stand by without being stimulated. Muscles remain relaxed without tension. Neural circuits reduce output without shutting down entirely. The absence of detail allows the mind to remain unoccupied by visual tasks. Without images to interpret, there is less internal activity directed outward. Attention does not need to resolve anything. This supports continued inward regulation, aligning with the hormonal and autonomic shifts already in place. Darkness remains stable. Soft eyelids remain still. Vision stays at rest. Reduced eye movement continues to lower energy demand, reinforcing calm through simplicity rather than effort. Nothing new appears. Nothing fades because nothing was present to begin with. The visual system remains quiet, supported by conditions that require no response. Eyes rest fully, held by darkness that remains unchanged. Still darkness remains behind closed eyes, unchanged and complete. There is no variation within it, no brightness or shadow to separate one moment from the next. The room beyond remains just as still, holding the same quiet absence of movement. Gentle breathing continues at a steady rhythm, rising and falling without interruption. Nothing in the environment shifts enough to register. As sensory input continues to diminish, cognitive load lowers naturally. With fewer signals arriving from the senses, the brain has less information to process. Vision has already withdrawn from active engagement. Sound is absent. Touch remains constant and unchanging. This reduction simplifies internal activity, allowing thought processes to slow without effort. There is simply less to respond to. Scientific observation shows that reduced sensory input reliably lowers cognitive load. When the brain is not required to interpret changing stimuli, neural activity associated with evaluation and decision-making decreases. Fewer resources are allocated to monitoring the environment. This change does not stop thinking altogether. It softens its pace, reducing intensity rather than eliminating awareness. Energy conservation increases as stimulation drops. The brain, like the rest of the body, adjusts its energy use according to demand. When stimulation is high, energy consumption rises to support processing. When stimulation falls, energy use decreases. Darkness, by limiting sensory input, creates conditions in which conservation becomes the default state. Stillness supports this transition. The steady room offers no new information to analyze. The absence of movement means there is nothing to track. Gentle breathing provides a consistent internal rhythm, but it does not require interpretation. It continues quietly, matching the reduced demands placed on the nervous system. With vision resting and sensory input minimal, thought no longer needs to orient outward. There are no images to resolve, no changes to assess. Cognitive systems shift from active processing toward maintenance. Neural firing patterns become less complex, reflecting the simplicity of the environment. This does not require intention. It is a direct response to reduced demand. Research into cognitive load demonstrates that the brain expends significant energy maintaining awareness of its surroundings. When that awareness is no longer necessary, activity decreases. Darkness removes many of the cues that normally keep thought engaged. Without visual or auditory variation, the brain does not need to update internal models of the environment continuously. This reduction affects the pace of thought. Ideas do not need to connect quickly or sequentially. Internal dialogue loses urgency when there is nothing external to respond to. The mind is not empty, but it is less occupied. Activity slows because there is no pressure to maintain speed. Energy conservation becomes more pronounced as stimulation continues to drop. Metabolic activity in neural tissue adjusts downward, reflecting the lower workload. This shift supports overall physiological balance, allowing resources to be used efficiently rather than expended unnecessarily. The darkness behind closed eyes remains stable, reinforcing this process. There are no flashes of light or shifts in tone to disrupt internal quiet. Gentle breathing continues, steady and predictable. The room remains still, offering no stimulus that might re-engage alert systems. Cognitive load remains low because nothing changes. The brain does not need to predict outcomes or prepare responses. Predictability allows internal processes to remain in a simplified state. This supports mental quieting without suppression. Thought slows because there is no reason for it to remain active. Scientific studies of sensory deprivation and low stimulation environments show consistent reductions in cortical activity associated with attention and evaluation. While complete deprivation is not present here, the conditions approximate a low-demand state. Darkness, stillness, and absence of detail work together to reduce cognitive effort. Energy conservation follows naturally. Reduced neural firing means reduced energy consumption. This conservation supports long-term stability rather than short-term alertness. The system prioritizes balance over readiness, maintaining calm through efficiency. The gentle breathing rhythm continues without change. It does not demand focus or analysis. It simply persists, aligned with the slowed internal pace. The room's stillness remains intact, offering no interruption. Darkness holds its uniform presence. Mental quieting emerges from this combination of factors. Reduced sensory input lowers cognitive load. Lower cognitive load reduces the need for active thought. Energy conservation increases as stimulation drops. Together, these changes create conditions in which thought naturally slows. There is no transition point where this happens suddenly. It unfolds gradually, matching the sustained absence of stimulation. The mind follows the environment's lead, becoming quieter as the surroundings remain simple and unchanging. Nothing in the space challenges this state. Darkness stays complete. The room remains still. Gentle breathing continues at the same pace. Cognitive activity remains low because there is nothing to elevate it. This quieting is stable rather than fragile. It does not depend on maintaining a particular state of focus. It is supported by the environment itself. As long as stimulation remains minimal, cognitive load stays reduced and energy conservation remains high. The system rests in this balance. Thought slows without stopping. Awareness remains without urgency. Darkness continues to support this inward simplicity, allowing mental activity to remain soft and unforced. The darkness now extends beyond enclosed space, opening into a calm night landscape under starlight. The horizon rests low and dark, a gentle boundary rather than an edge. The ground lies still, unmarked by movement. Above it all, the sky holds a faint glow, not bright, not empty, simply present. Nothing shifts, nothing approaches. The night exists in quiet balance. This wider darkness carries familiarity shaped over time. Human circadian rhythms evolved alongside natural light cycles, responding to the predictable rise and fall of brightness across each day. For most of human history, light came from the sun, the moon, and the stars alone. Night was not an interruption. It was a regular phase, returning every evening with steady reliability. Biology adapted accordingly, aligning internal timing with the absence of light. In these natural conditions, darkness historically coincided with reduced activity. Without artificial illumination, tasks requiring vision became impractical after sunset. Movement slowed, social and physical demands diminished. The night did not demand productivity. It signaled a period of lower engagement with the environment. This pattern shaped behavior over generations, reinforcing biological systems that associated darkness with rest and conservation. The night landscape reflects this history. The still ground offers no indication of activity. The dark horizon remains unchanged, neither advancing nor retreating. The faint glow of the sky provides orientation without stimulation. Everything present behaves predictably, mirroring the conditions under which circadian rhythms first formed. Scientific research into circadian biology shows that internal timing systems are deeply entrained by light and dark cycles. The human body does not require clocks to recognize night. It responds directly to changes in illumination. Darkness acts as a signal, aligning hormonal release, temperature regulation, and metabolic activity with an expected period of reduced demand. This alignment did not develop in environments filled with constant brightness. It evolved under skies where night brought a consistent reduction in visual input. Under starlight alone, sensory information was limited. Activity naturally decreased because the environment offered fewer cues and fewer opportunities for engagement. The faint sky glow above the landscape reflects this balance. It is enough to orient, not enough to stimulate. The ground remains still because there is no reason for movement. The horizon holds steady, offering continuity rather than novelty. This environment communicates safety through predictability rather than vigilance. Darkness, in this context, is not absence. It is a condition shaped by evolution to support lower activity levels. When light falls away, internal systems recognize a familiar pattern. Energy use decreases, attention narrows. The body shifts toward maintenance rather than exploration. Anthropological evidence supports this understanding. Across cultures and climates, human activity historically diminished after nightfall. While social interaction continued in limited forms, large-scale movement and labor declined. Darkness constrained what was possible, and biology adapted to that constraint by favoring rest. The calm night landscape holds that legacy. The still ground reflects reduced movement. The dark horizons suggest continuity rather than uncertainty. The faint sky glow provides just enough reference to maintain orientation without inviting action. Circadian rhythms evolved to expect this sequence. Day brought light and activity. Night brought darkness and reduction. This pattern became encoded within physiological systems, shaping responses to light levels regardless of context. Even now, when darkness appears, those ancient responses remain accessible. The night does not introduce urgency. It does not demand assessment. It offers a consistent backdrop that signals reduced engagement. This signaling does not rely on conscious interpretation. It operates through direct interaction between light levels and biological systems. The sky's faint glow remains constant. The ground remains unmoving. The horizon remains dark and even. Nothing in this landscape suggests threat or demand. It reflects conditions under which human nervous systems learn to settle. Darkness historically coincided with reduced activity, not because of instruction, but because of limitation. Without light, the environment itself discouraged movement and interaction. Over time, internal systems learned to align with that pattern, conserving energy when stimulation fell away. This evolutionary relationship continues to influence responses to darkness today. When light decreases, internal timing systems recognize a familiar phase. Activity reduces. Alertness softens. The body does not need to be told that night has arrived. It senses it directly. The calm landscape under starlight embodies this understanding. It is expansive without being overwhelming, still without being empty. The faint glow of the sky offers reassurance rather than stimulation. Everything present behaves in a way that can be anticipated. This predictability reinforces calm. The environment does not require monitoring. It does not present new information. It simply exists, reflecting the conditions under which human biology learned to associate darkness with reduced demand. The night remains steady. The ground stays still. The horizon does not change. The sky holds its quiet glow. This continuity connects present experience with deep evolutionary patterns, grounding internal responses in conditions shaped long before artificial light altered the rhythm of darkness. Darkness here is not unfamiliar. It is inherited, a signal repeated across countless nights, reinforcing the same internal shift toward reduced activity and conservation. The landscape holds that signal quietly, offering context without pressure, allowing the body's ancient understanding of night to remain intact. The darkness carries with it a subtle coolness, a quiet night air that does not move or press, but simply exists. It rests against the body evenly, without contrast. Skin remains still, neither tightening nor reacting. Breath stays calm, entering and leaving at a steady pace. Along the edges of the room, everything remains quiet and unchanged, softened by the same low light. Within this darkness, temperature regulation begins to shift. Core body temperature naturally drops at night, following internal timing shaped by long-standing biological patterns. This decrease is gradual, not abrupt, and it unfolds as part of the body's broader transition into reduced activity. Darkness supports this process by removing signals that would otherwise maintain higher metabolic output. Scientific observation shows that core body temperature follows a daily rhythm, reaching its lowest point during the night. This drop supports rest by reducing overall energy demand. Lower temperature means slower biochemical reactions, reduced muscle tone, and decreased metabolic rate. The body becomes less oriented toward action and more toward maintenance. Darkness contributes directly to heat dissipation. In low light, physiological systems associated with alertness and movement remain quiet. Blood vessels near the skin can relax slightly, allowing heat to move away from the core more efficiently. This process does not require cold exposure. It occurs even in stable environments, guided by internal signals reinforced by darkness. The cool night air acts as a consistent backdrop rather than a stimulus. It does not change abruptly. It does not demand response. Skin remains calm because there is no reason to adjust. Breath continues steadily, unaffected by sudden shifts. The body recognizes that conditions are stable enough to allow temperature to drift downward without interruption. This regulation is deeply tied to the same circadian systems shaped by natural light cycles. As darkness arrives, hormonal and autonomic changes work together to support cooling. Melatonin, already present, plays a role in coordinating this shift by influencing vascular tone and metabolic activity. Darkness reinforces these signals by maintaining low sensory input. Heat dissipation is an essential part of settling. When core temperature drops, the body moves further away from readiness. Muscles require less energy to maintain tone. Neural activity associated with movement and response slows. This supports the broader pattern of reduced demand established earlier through darkness and stillness. The quiet room edges remain unchanged as this internal adjustment continues. There is no draft, no movement of air that would provoke reaction. The environment remains neutral, allowing temperature regulation to proceed smoothly. Predictability matters here. Sudden changes can interrupt thermal balance, but steady darkness supports gradual cooling. Research into sleep physiology consistently shows that darkness and temperature regulation are closely linked. When darkness is consistent, heat loss becomes more efficient. When light intrudes, this process can be delayed. The body interprets light as a signal to maintain higher temperature and readiness. Darkness removes that signal, allowing cooling to continue. Still skin reflects this shift. There is no tension or contraction. Blood flow adjusts subtly beneath the surface, supporting heat release without sensation. Calm breath continues, aligned with lowered metabolic demand. Nothing in the environment challenges this state. This deepening bodily settling builds on earlier evolutionary patterns. For most of human history, night brought both darkness and cooling. As the sun set, ambient temperatures typically fell. Biology adapted to this pairing, linking darkness with internal cooling. Even in environments where temperature remains stable, the internal expectation persists. Darkness supports heat dissipation by reinforcing this expectation. The body does not need external cold to begin cooling. It responds to darkness itself, adjusting internal set points accordingly. This allows temperature regulation to proceed even in the absence of environmental change. The cool night air remains steady. It does not intensify or recede. Skin stays calm. Breath stays even. The room edges remain quiet, offering no distraction. Everything present supports continuity rather than change. Core body temperature continues its slow decline, guided by internal timing rather than conscious control. This decline is not dramatic. It is subtle and sustained, matching the unchanging nature of the environment. The body does not rush this process. It unfolds according to established rhythms. Darkness plays a central role by maintaining conditions favorable to cooling. Reduced stimulation lowers metabolic demand. Lower demand supports heat release. These processes reinforce one another, creating a stable internal state aligned with night. The absence of light ensures that temperature regulation is not interrupted. There are no visual cues to elevate alertness, no signals to increase activity. The body remains free to continue its inward adjustment. This cooling supports deeper settling. Lower temperature reduces the likelihood of spontaneous movement. Muscles remain relaxed. Neural activity associated with action remains quiet. The system conserves energy by design. Everything remains as it is. The cool night air stays consistent. Skin remains still. Breath remains calm. The room edges hold their quiet form. Darkness continues to support heat dissipation, allowing core body temperature to follow its natural nighttime course. This internal shift does not announce itself. It does not require awareness. It simply continues, supported by darkness that remains steady and unobtrusive. The body follows patterns shaped long ago, cooling gently as night holds its place. The room now holds silence completely. Nothing enters it. Nothing leaves it. The air itself feels muted, as though sound has been absorbed before it could form. Still surfaces remain unchanged, offering no vibration or reflection. Steady shadows rest where they have already settled, unmoving and even. The space does not echo. It simply remains quiet. In the absence of sound, sensory input reduces further. The auditory system, which is constantly active even in low-light conditions, no longer has signals to process. There are no fluctuations in volume, no changes in tone, no rhythms to track. This reduction has a direct effect on the brain. Reduced sensory input lowers cortical arousal, decreasing activity in regions responsible for alertness and environmental monitoring. Silence supports parasympathetic activity in much the same way darkness does. When auditory input is minimal, the nervous system does not need to remain prepared for sudden changes. There is no reason to orient or respond. Internal systems can remain in a state of balance, prioritizing restoration over readiness. This shift does not require effort. It follows automatically from the absence of stimulation. The silent room reinforces this state through consistency. Muted air carries no disturbance. Still surfaces do not transmit vibration. Steady shadows offer no visual cue that something has changed. Together, these elements create an environment in which the auditory system can remain disengaged without concern. Scientific research into sensory processing shows that sound, even at low levels, increases cortical activity. The brain remains partially alert when it must interpret auditory information, regardless of whether that information is meaningful. Silence removes this demand. Without sound to analyze, neural circuits associated with vigilance reduce their output. This reduction influences the broader nervous system. As cortical arousal lowers, parasympathetic influence becomes more prominent. Heart rate variability tends to increase, reflecting greater flexibility and calm in autonomic regulation. Muscular tension remains low. Breathing stays steady. These changes align with the quiet conditions of the room. Silence also removes the need for anticipation. Sound often signals change before it becomes visible. In its absence, there is no expectation of interruption. The nervous system does not need to prepare for response. This absence of anticipation further supports calm, allowing internal rhythms to remain uninterrupted. the muted air remains neutral. It does not carry resonance or vibration. Still surfaces do not amplify or reflect anything. Steady shadows remain exactly as they were, providing visual continuity that complements the auditory quiet. The environment behaves predictably across all senses. Lower cortical arousal allows mental activity to remain soft rather than active. Without sound to engage attention, the brain does not need to allocate resources toward interpretation. Thought does not need to orient outward. The mind remains unoccupied by auditory tasks, supporting continued inward settling. Silence plays a distinct role compared to darkness alone. Even in darkness, sound can maintain alertness. Here, both are absent. The combined reduction in visual and auditory input creates conditions of minimal sensory demand. This combination strengthens parasympathetic dominance, reinforcing the calm established earlier. Research consistently shows that silence enhances parasympathetic activity, particularly when paired with low light. Together, these conditions support reduced stress hormone release and improved autonomic balance. The body responds by maintaining a state of quiet readiness rather than alert engagement. The room continues to offer no stimulus. Muted air remains unchanged. Still surfaces hold their form without vibration. Steady shadows do not shift. Nothing intrudes into the silence. This consistency allows the nervous system to remain settled without correction. Auditory quiet reduces the need for cortical monitoring. The brain does not need to scan for meaning or threat. Without sound, there is less opportunity for misinterpretation or overreaction. Silence simplifies perception, allowing internal processes to proceed without interference. This auditory absence supports the emotional role of the section. Quiet does not need to be filled. It does not require explanation. It simply exists, reducing demand on systems designed to detect and respond. Calm emerges not from addition, but from subtraction. The parasympathetic system continues its steady influence. Silence removes one more pathway through which stimulation could enter. The body responds by maintaining internal balance. Energy conservation remains high. Neural activity associated with vigilance remains low. The room does not change. Silence does not deepen or fade. It remains consistent, reinforcing predictability. This predictability allows the nervous system to remain relaxed without effort. Nothing breaks the quiet. There are no sounds to interpret, no vibrations to track. The auditory system remains inactive because there is nothing for it to do. Cortical arousal stays low. Parasympathetic activity remains supported. The space holds this silence easily. Muted air, still surfaces, steady shadows all contribute to an environment that does not ask for attention. The body responds accordingly, remaining settled and calm. Silence continues to support inward focus. Without sound, there is nothing to pull awareness outward. The nervous system remains oriented toward maintenance and balance, supported by the absence of auditory demand. Everything remains as it is. The room stays silent. The air stays muted. Surfaces remain still. Shadows remain steady. Auditory quiet persists, allowing parasympathetic activity to continue without interruption, holding the space in calm and unbroken quiet. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged in its quiet form. The ceiling rests above without drawing attention. Along the walls, faint shadows stay exactly where they have settled. There is no movement anywhere in the space. Nothing shifts, nothing emerges. The absence of motion feels complete, not empty, simply stable. Within this stability, internal experience begins to soften. With stimulation reduced across vision and sound, the brain no longer receives cues that encourage active recall. Reduced stimulation lowers memory recall intensity, not by suppressing memory, but by removing the conditions that normally keep it vivid. Without sensory triggers, memories are less likely to rise sharply into awareness. The body remains gently present within the room. There is a faint awareness of physical existence, but no demand attached to it. Stillness continues without interruption. The ceiling does not change. The shadows along the walls do not drift. The environment offers no variation that might prompt the brain to search for meaning or context. Scientific research shows that when sensory input drops, the brain shifts away from active recall and toward consolidation states. In these states, information is reorganized rather than replayed. Memory becomes quieter, less detailed, and less emotionally charged. This shift does not erase memory. It changes how memory is processed. Silence plays a role here by removing auditory cues that often trigger recollection. Darkness complements this by eliminating visual association. Together, they reduce the likelihood that memories will be actively reconstructed. Without external prompts, the brain does not need to retrieve and evaluate past information. It can remain in a lower demand mode. The dark room supports this transition through consistency. The steady ceiling line provides a fixed reference without stimulating attention. Faint shadows along the walls remain soft and indistinct. Nothing in the space resembles novelty. This lack of novelty reduces the brain's tendency to search backward for comparison or meaning. Reduced stimulation lowers memory recall intensity in a measurable way. Neural networks associated with episodic recall become less active when the environment is simple and unchanging. Instead of reconstructing sequences, the brain reallocates resources toward integration. This is part of its natural rhythm, especially under low-demand conditions. The shift toward consolidation states is subtle. It does not announce itself. Thought does not stop abruptly. Instead, mental content becomes less sharp. Edges blur. The pace of internal activity slows. Memories lose urgency because there is no external context requiring them to be applied or evaluated. The room remains unchanged throughout this process. The ceiling stays still. The shadows remain faint. The absence of movement reinforces predictability. Predictable environments reduce the brain's need to access stored information to guide response. When nothing needs responding to, recall loses purpose. This softening is different from distraction. Nothing replaces memory. There is simply less reason for it to arise. Without stimulation, the brain does not need to orient itself using past experience. It can remain present without referencing what came before. Research in sleep science consistently shows that consolidation states are associated with reduced sensory input and decreased cortical arousal. In these states, memory processing continues, but it does so quietly, without conscious replay. Information is reorganized rather than revisited. Emotional tone decreases. Intensity fades. The faint bodily awareness remains neutral. There is no tension drawing attention inward or outward. Gentle stillness continues uninterrupted. The dark room offers no stimulus that would reactivate recall networks. Everything present supports quiet processing rather than active remembering. This is how mental replay diminishes without force. It does not require suppression or control. It emerges naturally when stimulation falls away. Reduced input lowers recall intensity. The brain shifts toward consolidation. Together, these changes soften memory without removing it. The ceiling remains steady overhead. The walls remain defined only by faint shadow. Movement remains absent. The environment does not invite reflection or comparison. It simply exists as it is. In this state, memory becomes less prominent because it no longer serves an immediate function. There is nothing to plan for, nothing to respond to. The brain can afford to let recall drift into the background. This supports the emotional role of the section, reducing mental replay through environmental simplicity. Silence continues to hold. Darkness remains complete. The room does not change. The brain continues its quiet shift toward consolidation, maintaining low recall intensity as long as stimulation remains minimal. Everything stays aligned. The environment remains still. Internal processing remains gentle. Memory softens not because it is pushed away, but because there is nothing left to pull it forward. The dark room continues to exist exactly as it is, supporting this quiet internal state. The ceiling stays motionless. Shadows remain faint. Stillness holds. Memory remains present but softened, reorganizing quietly beneath awareness, undisturbed and unforced. The dark room remains exactly as it has been. The ceiling line above is unchanged, steady and unbroken. Shadows along the walls hold their position without drifting or thinning. There are no cues suggesting progression or pause. The space does not mark moments. It simply continues. Within this environment, the sense of time begins to loosen. Reduced sensory markers alter time perception because there is less information available to divide experience into segments. In brighter, more active settings, changes in sound, movement, and light provide constant reference points. Here, those markers are absent. Without variation to measure against, the brain no longer tracks time in the same way. Slow breath cycles continue, each one similar to the last. There is no clear boundary between them beyond gentle rhythm. Steady shadows offer no indication of passage. The ceiling remains the same shape, the same tone. Nothing in the room suggests that one moment differs meaningfully from another. Scientific research shows that time perception depends heavily on sensory change. When sensory input is reduced, the brain has fewer events to encode, and time is experienced as less structured. This does not stop time from passing. It changes how it is registered. Moments blend because there are no anchors separating them. As sensory markers fade, circadian signals begin to dominate temporal awareness. Internal timing systems, shaped by light and dark cycles, take precedence over external cues. Darkness reinforces these internal rhythms, allowing the body to rely on biological timing rather than environmental change to orient itself. This shift reduces urgency. When time is no longer broken into noticeable units, there is less pressure to anticipate what comes next. The mind does not need to track progression because nothing demands response at a specific moment. Awareness remains present without being pulled forward. The room supports this experience through sameness. Steady shadows do not imply movement. The ceiling line does not suggest transition. Slow breath cycles repeat without emphasis. Everything present behaves in a way that minimizes contrast, and contrast is what normally creates a sense of sequence. Reduced sensory markers alter time perception by limiting novelty. Novelty creates memory. Memory creates sequence. When novelty is absent, fewer distinct memories form. Without distinct memories, time feels less divided. Experience becomes continuous rather than segmented. Circadian signals offer a different kind of timing. Instead of marking minutes or intervals, they provide a general sense of phase. Darkness signals night. Internal systems respond accordingly, guiding physiology without reference to precise duration. Temporal awareness becomes broader, less detailed. This dominance of circadian signaling is not abstract. It is rooted in measurable physiological changes. Hormonal patterns, temperature shifts, and autonomic balance all follow internal rhythms tied to darkness. These rhythms provide orientation without requiring attention to external markers. The dark room remains constant as this internal timing takes precedence. Nothing interrupts the slow continuity of experience. Breath cycles remain even. Shadows remain steady. The ceiling remains unchanged. There is no indication that time is advancing in a way that requires acknowledgement. Research into low stimulation environments consistently shows altered time perception. Participants report difficulty estimating duration when sensory input is minimal. The brain relies on change to track time. When change is absent, duration loses clarity. Time feels expanded or indistinct, not because it has changed, but because perception has. This indistinctness supports calm. Urgency depends on deadlines, on sequences, on anticipation. When time is not clearly segmented, urgency has no structure to attach to. The nervous system does not need to prepare for the next moment, because the next moment does not present itself as distinct. The slow breath cycles continue, each one similar enough that they do not stand out individually. The steady shadows provide no contrast. The ceiling line remains a fixed reference that does not evolve. Together, these elements remove the cues that normally organize experience into before and after. Circadian dominance reinforces this state. Internal timing does not require constant monitoring. It operates automatically, guiding processes without demanding awareness. Darkness allows these signals to remain unchallenged by external stimuli. The result is a softened sense of duration. Moments do not feel rushed or delayed. They simply occur. The mind does not need to measure or evaluate them. Awareness can remain present without counting or anticipating. The room continues to behave predictably. No new sensory markers appear. No changes occur that would reintroduce sequence. Time perception remains loose because there is nothing to tighten it. This extension of memory softening naturally leads into altered time awareness. When recall intensity is low, fewer temporal markers are retrieved. Without recalling what just happened in detail, the distinction between moments fades. Time becomes less about sequence and more about continuity. Everything remains aligned with this experience. The dark room does not change. The ceiling stays still. Shadows remain steady. Breath cycles continue at the same pace. Circadian signals remain dominant. There is no need for the brain to track progression. There is nothing to prepare for. Time passes without being counted, supported by darkness that removes markers rather than adding them. The environment holds this state without effort. Reduced sensory markers continue to alter time perception. Internal rhythms continue to guide awareness. Urgency loosens because it has nothing to attach to. The dark room remains as it is, steady and unchanged. The sense of time remains soft, unstructured, and calm, carried quietly by internal rhythms rather than external cues. Dark stillness continues behind closed eyes, unchanged and complete. There is no variation within it, no suggestion of movement or depth. The room remains present without asserting itself. Its presence is stable, familiar, and quiet. Even breathing continues at the same gentle pace, each cycle similar enough that none stands out. Nothing in the space competes for attention. In this low stimulation state, the brain adjusts how it organizes activity. When external input is minimal, patterns of internal activity shift naturally. Default mode network activity changes in low stimulation, reflecting a move away from outward focus and toward inward processing that does not require effort or direction. This shift is not abrupt. It emerges gradually as the environment remains simple and unchanged. The default mode network is most active when there is little need to respond to the outside world. In low stimulation, the brain does not need to evaluate signals or plan actions. Instead, internal activity becomes quieter and more diffuse. Thought does not disappear, but it loses structure and urgency. The mind is no longer pulled toward interpretation or response. Energy use decreases during rest states, including periods of low sensory demand. This reduction reflects lower neural firing rates and simplified processing. The brain, which consumes a significant portion of the body's energy during active engagement, adjusts its consumption downward when stimulation drops. This conservation supports overall balance rather than readiness. Darkness supports this change by maintaining the same conditions moment after moment. There are no visual cues to interpret, no sounds to process, no changes requiring evaluation. Even breathing remains steady, offering a rhythm without complexity. The room's stable presence provides a backdrop that does not demand orientation. Scientific observation shows that when stimulation is low, the brain reduces activity in networks associated with attention and decision-making. At the same time, activity within internal networks becomes less structured. This does not mean the brain is inactive. It means activity is no longer organized around external demands. Energy use decreasing during rest states is not a sign of shutdown. It is a sign of efficiency. The brain reallocates resources, maintaining essential functions while reducing unnecessary output. This efficiency supports calm because there is less internal drive pushing toward action or analysis. The dark stillness behind closed eyes remains unchanged as these adjustments continue. There is no interruption. The room does not introduce novelty. Even breathing continues evenly, reinforcing predictability. Predictability allows the brain to remain in this low-demand mode without correction. Default mode network activity shifting in low stimulation reflects the brain's preference for balance when demands are minimal. Without sensory input to organize around, internal activity does not need to follow linear patterns. Thoughts may arise and fade without sequence. There is no requirement for coherence or resolution. This supports cognitive easing. When thought is not organized around tasks or responses, it naturally softens. The mind does not need to hold information tightly. There is no external context requiring clarity or speed. Internal activity becomes gentle because there is nothing to sharpen it. Energy conservation continues as stimulation remains low. Reduced neural firing lowers metabolic demand. This reduction supports the broader physiological settling already in place. Temperature regulation, autonomic balance, and hormonal signaling all benefit from decreased energy expenditure. The room remains quietly present throughout. It does not intrude. It does not change. Its stability reinforces the brain's decision to remain in a low output state. There is no reason to increase activity when nothing requires attention. Research into rest states consistently shows that the brain's energy use decreases when external demands fall away. This decrease supports recovery and maintenance rather than performance. The brain is still active, but its activity is aligned with restoration rather than engagement. The dark stillness behind closed eyes continues to offer no stimulus. Even breathing remains smooth and predictable. The room's presence does not vary. Together, these conditions allow internal networks to remain softly active without organizing around external reference points. Default mode network activity shifting does not mean thought becomes focused inward in a deliberate way. It means that thought is no longer constrained by external structure. Internal experience becomes less directed, less effortful. This contributes to the easing of cognition described here. Energy use remains low because there is nothing to drive it higher. Without stimulation, the brain does not need to prepare, predict, or react. Conservation becomes the natural state. This conservation supports calm, not by adding anything, but by reducing demand. The environment continues to support this process passively. Darkness remains complete. The room remains still. Even breathing continues without variation. Nothing challenges the low stimulation state. Cognitive easing emerges from this alignment. Reduced stimulation allows internal activity to remain diffuse. Energy conservation supports stability. The brain does not need to do more than it is doing. Everything remains as it has been. Dark stillness holds. The room remains present without emphasis. Breathing continues evenly. The brain remains in a low demand state. Its activity shifted, its energy use reduced, its processes aligned with rest rather than engagement. This state does not require maintenance. It persists as long as conditions remain simple. Darkness continues to provide those conditions. Low stimulation continues to support gentle internal activity. Cognitive easing remains in place, carried quietly by an environment that asks nothing at all. The darkness in the room remains consistent, without variation or interruption. The walls stay still, offering no movement or contrast. Shadows along their surfaces do not shift or thin. Everything appears exactly as it did moments ago. Nothing has been added. Nothing has been removed. The space holds its form steadily. This consistency carries meaning for the brain. When an environment remains unchanged, safety cues become stronger rather than weaker. Consistency reduces amygdala activation, not through reassurance or evaluation, but through familiarity. When nothing alters from one moment to the next, the systems responsible for detecting uncertainty have no reason to increase their activity. The amygdala responds primarily to change, unpredictability, and novelty. In an environment where none of these are present, its activity naturally decreases. Darkness that remains the same moment after moment offers no signal requiring interpretation. The brain recognizes that the environment does not need to be reassessed. This recognition happens quietly beneath awareness. Predictability supports relaxation by removing the need for monitoring. When surroundings behave exactly as expected, the nervous system can maintain a low alert state without effort. The body does not need to prepare for adjustment, because nothing suggests that adjustment will be required. Calm deepens through repetition rather than action. The room demonstrates this predictability clearly. Still walls remain unchanged. Shadows do not suggest movement or approach. The darkness does not thicken or recede. Each moment matches the one before it closely enough that they blend together. This sameness reduces internal demand. Scientific research shows that consistent environments reduce activation in brain regions associated with emotional vigilance. When conditions remain stable, the amygdala reduces its output, allowing other systems to maintain balance without interference. This reduction supports parasympathetic influence, reinforcing the calm already present. Predictability does not require silence or absence alone. It requires reliability. Here, darkness behaves reliably. Walls remain where they are. Shadows remain faint and still. The environment does not introduce novelty that would require emotional processing. Safety cues remain implicit rather than explicit. This contributes to deep reassurance without introducing thought or narrative. There is no message being delivered. The reassurance arises from direct experience of consistency. The brain does not need to label the environment as safe. It simply responds to the absence of change. The reduction in amygdala activation allows internal systems to remain settled. Emotional processing quiets when there is nothing to evaluate. The mind does not need to scan for meaning or significance. It can remain present without interpretation. Predictability supports relaxation by allowing the nervous system to conserve resources. When vigilance is unnecessary, energy is not allocated to monitoring. Instead, it supports maintenance and balance. This conservation aligns with the low stimulation state already established. The room continues to provide the same conditions without variation. Darkness remains uniform. Walls remain still. Shadows remain unchanged. Nothing contradicts the expectation of continuity. Each moment confirms the last. Research into environmental stability consistently shows that predictable surroundings reduce stress-related neural activity. The brain learns quickly when an environment is unlikely to change. Once learned, monitoring decreases. Here, that learning is reinforced continuously by the environment's sameness. This reinforcement strengthens reassurance. Calm becomes more secure when it does not depend on active regulation. Predictability allows relaxation to persist without effort. The body does not need to maintain calm. Calm maintains itself. The still walls offer no distraction. They do not shift or draw attention. Unchanged shadows provide no cue for orientation or response. Darkness remains consistent enough that it fades into background, rather than remaining a focal point. As amygdala activity remains low, emotional tone stays even. There is no escalation, no need for evaluation. The brain does not need to assign importance to anything present because nothing stands out. This supports a quiet emotional field. Predictability also reduces the need for memory retrieval. When nothing changes, the brain does not need to reference past experiences to anticipate future outcomes. Each moment confirms the expectation that nothing will occur. This further reduces internal activity. The environment continues to behave exactly as it has. Darkness remains constant. Walls remain still. Shadows remain faint and unchanged. This repetition reinforces safety cues without drawing attention to them. Deep reassurance emerges from this alignment. The brain receives consistent information that nothing requires response. Over time, this information becomes background, allowing emotional systems to remain quiet. Scientific observation supports this process. Consistent sensory environments reduce activity in regions associated with emotional reactivity. Predictability supports relaxation by removing uncertainty. Together, these effects allow calm to deepen without intervention. The room holds this state easily. Nothing strains or shifts. Darkness does not fluctuate. The environment remains reliable. This reliability is the foundation of reassurance here. There is no need for confirmation or interpretation. The safety cues are implicit in the environment's behavior. Stillness communicates stability. Consistency communicates reliability. Darkness communicates absence of demand. The brain responds accordingly. Amygdala activation remains low. Emotional tone remains even. Relaxation persists without effort. The mind does not need to engage. Everything remains as it is. Still walls, unchanged shadows, consistent darkness. Predictability continues moment after moment, reinforcing calm through sameness rather than signal. This deep reassurance does not announce itself. It simply continues, supported by an environment that behaves exactly as expected. Darkness remains consistent. The room remains unchanged. Safety cues remain present through predictability alone, holding the space in quiet, steady calm. Awareness in the dark room becomes more narrowly focused, not through effort, but through absence. The space remains unchanged. Darkness holds steady. The faint ceiling line remains visible without drawing attention. Breath continues at an even pace, neither deepening nor quickening. Stillness remains complete, uninterrupted by movement or variation. As the environment stays simple, sensory gating increases at rest. This process allows the brain to reduce the flow of incoming information before it reaches conscious awareness. When stimulation is low, the nervous system does not need to remain open to every signal. Instead, it becomes selective, allowing only the most relevant input to pass through. Thalamic filtering plays a central role in this narrowing. The thalamus acts as a relay point for sensory information, regulating what reaches the cortex. In low-demand states, thalamic filtering reduces input, limiting the amount of sensory data processed. This reduction does not eliminate sensation entirely. It softens it, allowing awareness to remain present without being crowded. The dark room supports this shift naturally. There are few signals available to pass through filtering mechanisms. Visual input is minimal. Auditory input remains absent. Tactile sensation stays constant rather than varied. With little arriving, the filtering system does not need to work hard. It simply maintains a low throughput state. Breath continues as a gentle internal rhythm. It does not compete with other sensations. Stillness remains dominant. The faint ceiling line provides orientation without stimulation. Awareness narrows because there is nothing else to widen it. Scientific research shows that sensory gating increases during rest states, reducing responsiveness to external input. This change supports recovery by preventing unnecessary processing. When the brain is not required to interpret a wide range of signals, internal systems can remain coordinated without interference. Thalamic filtering reducing input has measurable effects on perception. Sensations that would normally stand out become muted. The nervous system prioritizes stability over detection. This prioritization supports calm by limiting the number of signals requiring evaluation. The room remains constant as this narrowing continues. Darkness does not fluctuate. The ceiling line does not shift. Breath remains steady. Nothing in the environment challenges the reduced sensory flow. Predictability allows gating mechanisms to remain engaged without adjustment. This narrowing does not feel constricting. It feels natural because it aligns with environmental simplicity. When surroundings offer little variation, broad awareness is unnecessary. The brain responds by focusing only on what remains consistent. As sensory input decreases, the mind does not need to distribute attention widely. There is no need to monitor multiple channels. Awareness can rest on a narrow range of sensations without losing orientation. This supports further quieting without disengagement. Research into thalamic activity shows that during low stimulation states, relay patterns change to favor internal coherence over external detection. This shift reduces the likelihood that minor stimuli will interrupt ongoing internal processes. Calm becomes more resilient because it is less easily disrupted. Breath continues to mark presence without demanding attention. Stillness remains uninterrupted. The faint ceiling line stays unchanged. Awareness remains narrow because there is nothing to expand it outward. Sensory gating increasing at rest allows the nervous system to maintain a low alert state. Filtering reduces the volume of incoming information. The brain does not need to sort or prioritize signals because few arrive at all. This narrowing supports the emotional role of the section. Further quieting emerges not from adding calm, but from reducing complexity. The fewer signals present, the fewer responses required. Awareness becomes simple because the environment is simple. The room continues to behave reliably. Darkness remains consistent. The ceiling line remains faint. Breath remains steady. Stillness holds. These conditions reinforce sensory narrowing by offering no reason to reopen channels of perception. Thalamic filtering remains engaged as long as stimulation stays low. Sensory gating remains increased. Awareness remains focused without effort. The mind does not need to widen its scope because nothing calls for attention. This state builds directly from earlier safety cues. Predictability supports gating. Consistency supports filtering. Together, they allow sensory narrowing to deepen without tension. Everything remains as it is. The dark room does not change. Breath continues evenly. The faint ceiling line remains present. Awareness stays narrow, supported by reduced input and internal filtering that gently limits what reaches consciousness. Further quieting holds without announcement. Sensory channels remain calm. Thalamic filtering continues to reduce input. Sensory gating remains increased. The environment supports this state by remaining simple and unchanged. Nothing intrudes. Nothing expands. Awareness stays narrow because it does not need to be anything else. Darkness continues to hold the space steady, allowing sensory narrowing to persist naturally and quietly. The body rests in darkness, present and supported without movement. The room remains unchanged, its edges stable and quiet. Limbs remain still, not held, not positioned, simply unmoving. There is a sense of weight that does not press or pull, but exists steadily, evenly distributed. Darkness holds everything in place without contrast. As stimulation remains low, physical sensation shifts toward grounding rather than action. Muscle tone decreases during rest, a measurable change that reflects reduced neural drive to maintain readiness. Muscles do not release all tension at once. Instead, baseline tone softens gradually, matching the absence of demand. This decrease does not signal weakness. It signals efficiency. The body no longer needs to prepare for movement. With sensory input narrowed and environmental conditions stable, there is no reason to maintain heightened muscular readiness. Motor neurons reduce their output. Muscle fibers remain engaged only enough to support posture without adjustment. Still limbs reflect this state clearly. They are not actively held. They simply remain. Gravity perception remains without movement. Even in complete stillness, the body continues to register its orientation relative to gravity. This perception does not require motion or effort. It is maintained through internal sensory systems that remain active even when everything else quiets. The body knows its weight without needing to shift or test it. This awareness of weight contributes to physical grounding. When movement is absent, gravity becomes a steady reference rather than a force to counteract. There is no need to balance or adjust. The body can register its presence fully without response. Weight is felt as continuity, not pressure. Scientific observation shows that reduced muscle tone during rest lowers energy consumption. Muscles are metabolically expensive tissues. When tone decreases, energy demand falls. This supports the broader pattern of conservation already established through darkness, silence, and reduced stimulation. The room continues to provide no challenge to this state. Stable edges remain fixed. Nothing in the environment requires repositioning. Darkness prevents visual cues that might encourage adjustment. Stillness allows muscle tone to remain low without interruption. Gravity perception remaining intact without movement is an important part of this settling. The body does not lose orientation when it becomes still. Instead, orientation becomes simpler. There is no need to constantly update position. The internal sense of weight remains sufficient. This contributes to a feeling of being held by the environment rather than needing to engage with it. Physical grounding does not come from effort. It comes from the absence of disturbance. When nothing moves, the body can remain where it is without correction. Muscle tone continues to decrease subtly as rest deepens. There is no abrupt release. The nervous system adjusts output gradually, matching the low demand conditions. Still, limbs remain unchanged. They do not twitch or shift. The absence of movement reinforces the absence of demand. Gravity remains constant. Without movement, its presence is felt as a steady reference rather than a challenge. The body does not need to push against it or compensate for it. This allows internal systems to remain calm and balanced. Research into proprioception shows that awareness of body position persists even in stillness. This awareness does not require active movement. It is maintained through internal signals that remain quiet but reliable. In darkness, with no visual input, this internal sense becomes sufficient. The body rests fully within this framework. Muscle tone remains low. Gravity perception remains steady. The room remains unchanged. Everything supports the same quiet physical state. This physical grounding extends the sensory narrowing already present. With fewer sensory channels active, bodily awareness becomes simpler. Weight becomes one of the few remaining sensations, and it does not demand interpretation. It simply exists. The mind does not need to direct attention to the body for this grounding to occur. It happens automatically when conditions allow. Reduced stimulation lowers muscle tone. Stillness allows gravity, perception to remain constant. Together, these changes support a stable physical presence. The environment continues to behave predictably. Darkness remains complete. Room edges remain stable. Nothing shifts that would require muscular adjustment. This predictability allows the body to remain settled without effort. Muscle tone remains low because there is no need for readiness. Gravity perception remains because orientation still matters even in rest. These two processes coexist without conflict, supporting a sense of being grounded without tension. The body does not feel separate from the space it occupies. It rests within it, aligned rather than braced. Darkness removes cues that would prompt action. Stillness removes the need for correction. Weight becomes a neutral presence. This grounding is not heavy in an oppressive way. It is simply present. The body remains where it is, supported by reduced muscle tone and steady gravity perception. Energy use remains low. Internal balance remains intact. Everything continues as it has been. The room does not change. Limbs remain still. Weight remains constant. Darkness continues to support physical grounding through simplicity and consistency. No new sensations arise. Nothing requires response. The body remains at rest, grounded by its own weight and orientation, held quietly within an environment that remains unchanged and undemanding. Breath moves quietly in darkness, steady and unremarkable. Subtle movement passes through the chest and then fades, leaving no trace behind it. Shadows in the room remain unchanged, offering no indication that anything has shifted. The environment does not respond to the breath, and the breath does not respond to the environment. Both continue without interruption. As the body remains at rest, respiratory patterns adjust on their own. Rest states slow respiratory rate, not through control, but through reduced demand. When muscles are still and sensory input is low, the body does not require rapid oxygen exchange. Breathing becomes slower because there is no need for speed. The rhythm lengthens naturally, guided by internal balance rather than external signals. This slowing is gradual. Each breath resembles the one before it closely enough that there is no clear boundary between cycles. The chest rises and falls with minimal effort. Nothing in the room changes to mark these movements. Shadows remain steady. Darkness remains complete. Scientific observation shows that as rest deepens, carbon dioxide tolerance increases during sleep onset. This means the body becomes comfortable with slightly higher levels of carbon dioxide in the blood, reducing the urge to breathe quickly. This change allows breathing to slow without discomfort. The system remains stable because internal chemistry adjusts to match reduced activity. The increase in CO2 tolerance reflects a broader shift toward efficiency. The body no longer needs to clear carbon dioxide rapidly because metabolic activity has decreased. Muscles are not producing excess waste. Neural activity has softened. Breathing responds by becoming slower and more even. Breath continues to move through the body without emphasis. Subtle chest movement remains the only visible sign of internal activity. Shadows do not flicker or respond. The room holds its shape without change. Nothing draws attention to the rhythm, yet it continues reliably. This rhythmic settling builds directly on physical grounding. With muscle tone reduced and limbs still, the respiratory system does not need to coordinate with movement. Breathing is no longer linked to action. It becomes a background process, steady and self-sustaining. Research into respiratory physiology shows that slower breathing is associated with parasympathetic dominance. As rest states deepen, autonomic balance shifts away from alertness. This shift supports longer pauses between breaths, not as an intervention, but as a consequence of reduced stimulation. CO2 tolerance increasing during sleep onset plays a key role here. In more alert states, rising carbon dioxide levels trigger faster breathing. As tolerance increases, this trigger becomes less sensitive. The body allows carbon dioxide levels to rise slightly without responding. Breathing remains slow because there is no urgency to correct anything. The dark room supports this process through consistency. There are no sudden changes in light or sound to elevate alertness. Shadows remain unchanged. The environment does not introduce novelty that might accelerate breathing. Predictability allows respiratory rhythm to remain uninterrupted. Breath remains present without being prominent. It does not require awareness to continue. It follows its own timing, shaped by internal chemistry and nervous system balance. The mind does not need to engage with it. The rhythm exists whether it is noticed or not. As respiratory rate slows, energy use continues to decrease. Fewer breaths per minute mean less muscular work and lower metabolic demand. This conservation aligns with the overall state of rest already established. The body does not expend energy unnecessarily. Subtle chest movement continues, barely perceptible. Each rise blends into the next. There is no clear beginning or end. This continuity mirrors the unchanging environment. Shadows remain steady. Darkness remains complete. Nothing interrupts the rhythm. Scientific studies consistently show that during the transition towards sleep, breathing becomes slower and more regular. Variability decreases. The system favors consistency over responsiveness. This supports internal stability by reducing fluctuations that could stimulate alertness. CO2 tolerance increasing also reduces the likelihood of sudden respiratory adjustments. The body does not react to minor changes in blood gas levels. This tolerance supports smooth, uninterrupted breathing. The rhythm remains even because nothing demands correction. The room remains aligned with this process. No movement appears at the edges. No variation emerges in shadow or tone. The environment behaves exactly as expected, allowing respiratory rhythm to remain stable. This rhythmic settling does not require synchronization with anything else. Breath does not need to match thought or sensation. It continues independently, guided by internal signals that favor rest. The body allows this rhythm to persist because conditions support it. As sensory narrowing continues, breath becomes one of the few remaining indicators of ongoing activity. Yet even this indicator is quiet. It does not stand out. It does not demand tracking. It simply continues. The increase in CO2 tolerance supports this quiet persistence. Breathing does not speed up to correct imagined imbalance. The system trusts its own stability. This trust is physiological rather than conscious. Everything remains unchanged. Subtle chest movement continues. Shadows remain steady. Darkness remains complete. The room does not react. The breath does not react. Both remain in balance. This balance reinforces calm without adding anything new. Slower respiratory rate reflects reduced demand. Increased CO2 tolerance reflects internal adjustment. Together, they allow breathing to remain slow, even, and unobtrusive. The body continues to rest within this rhythm. Muscle tone remains low. Weight remains grounded. Breath continues to move quietly in darkness, supported by internal systems that have shifted toward efficiency and balance. Nothing disrupts this process. The environment remains stable. Respiratory rhythm remains steady. The body remains settled. Breath continues its gentle movement, unforced and uninterrupted, held within darkness that remains unchanged. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged in every visible way. The ceiling rests above without shifting or drawing attention. Along the walls, faint shadows stay exactly where they have been, neither thinning nor deepening. There is no movement anywhere in the space. Stillness holds without interruption, creating an environment that offers no contrast and no variation. Within this steadiness, emotional tone begins to level. Reduced stimulation lowers emotional reactivity because there is less incoming information to provoke response. When the senses are quiet and the environment remains constant, emotional systems are not prompted to rise or fall. Nothing arrives that needs to be interpreted, evaluated, or reacted to. As a result, emotional intensity softens naturally. Scientific observation shows that limbic activity decreases at rest. The limbic system, which plays a central role in emotional processing, responds strongly to novelty, change, and significance. In the absence of these factors, its activity diminishes. This reduction does not eliminate emotion. It reduces fluctuation. Emotional tone becomes more even because there is no signal pushing it upward or downward. The room supports this change by remaining exactly the same. The ceiling does not shift. The shadows along the walls remain faint and stable. Nothing introduces contrast that might engage emotional processing. The environment behaves predictably, and predictability reduces the need for emotional vigilance. Reduced stimulation lowers emotional reactivity in measurable ways. Heart rate variability increases. Stress-related neural signals decrease. Emotional responses lose urgency when there is nothing external to respond to. This does not require suppression. It occurs automatically when stimulation remains low. The steady absence of movement reinforces this neutrality. Movement often signals change or intention. Here, nothing moves. The nervous system receives no indication that anything requires emotional engagement. This allows internal tone to settle into a balanced state. Limbic activity, decreasing at rest, reflects a broader shift toward internal equilibrium. When alertness is unnecessary, emotional systems reduce output. They remain available but inactive, ready only if needed. In this environment, they are not needed. The room continues to provide no challenge to this state. Faint shadows do not suggest approach or departure. The ceiling remains unchanged. Stillness does not deepen or fade. Each moment closely resembles the one before it. This sameness removes emotional cues that might otherwise provoke reaction. Emotional leveling is not emptiness. It is a state where emotional signals are present, but quiet. There is no pull toward excitement or concern. Internal tone remains even because nothing pushes it out of balance. The mind does not need to regulate or correct anything. Research into resting states consistently shows reduced limbic activation when sensory input is minimal. Without stimulation, emotional circuits do not escalate. They remain in a low output mode, conserving energy and maintaining balance. This supports calm by reducing variability rather than eliminating feeling. The dark room reinforces this low output mode continuously. There are no changes to reassess, no variations to interpret. Emotional systems do not need to update or respond. They remain settled because the environment remains stable. Even internal tone persists without shift. There is no rising or falling of emotional intensity. Stillness supports this equilibrium. Without movement or novelty, emotional processing has no anchor. It remains diffuse and quiet. Reduced stimulation lowers emotional reactivity because the brain does not need to prioritize anything emotionally. When nothing stands out, nothing is emphasized. Emotional signals do not cluster around particular thoughts or sensations. They remain evenly distributed, contributing to neutrality. The ceiling remains a steady presence overhead. The walls remain defined only by faint shadow. The absence of movement continues uninterrupted. The environment does not introduce any new information that might disturb emotional balance. Limbic activity remains low as long as conditions stay the same. Emotional systems do not require input to remain quiet. They require only the absence of disruption. Here, that absence is complete. This emotional leveling builds naturally from earlier rhythmic settling. As breath slowed and bodily grounding increased, emotional intensity began to soften. Now, with stimulation further reduced, that softening becomes more stable. Emotional tone remains even without effort. Nothing in the room contradicts this state. Stillness continues. Darkness remains uniform. The ceiling does not shift. Shadows do not move. Each moment confirms that no emotional response is necessary. Emotional neutrality holds without being forced. It is supported by the same simplicity that has guided every previous shift. Reduced stimulation lowers reactivity. Limbic activity decreases. Balance replaces fluctuation. The room continues to exist exactly as it is. The environment remains unchanged. Emotional systems remain quiet. Internal tone stays even. There is no narrative, no rise, no fall. Only steady presence within a space that does not ask for response. Darkness continues to hold everything in place. The ceiling remains still. Shadows remain faint. Movement remains absent. Emotional neutrality persists, supported by low stimulation and internal systems that have shifted toward balance rather than reaction. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged and steady. The ceiling stays fixed above, offering no variation. Along the walls, faint shadows remain exactly where they have settled, neither shifting nor dissolving. There is no movement anywhere in the space. Darkness holds consistently, without deepening or retreating. Everything remains as it has been. Within this stability, internal experience continues to quiet. As stimulation remains low and emotional tone stays even, cognitive activity shifts again. Language processing decreases during sleep onset, a change observed consistently as the brain moves away from active interpretation. Words no longer assemble with the same clarity or momentum. The systems responsible for organizing thoughts into language reduce their output. Verbal networks reduce activity when there is no need to communicate or interpret meaning. In the absence of external input, language serves little function. The brain does not need to label or describe what is present because nothing changes. This reduction does not happen suddenly. It unfolds gradually, following the sustained simplicity of the environment. Scientific observation shows that regions associated with speech and verbal comprehension become less active as rest deepens. This shift reflects a broader transition away from structured cognition. Language requires sequencing, categorization, and comparison. In low stimulation conditions, these processes become unnecessary. The brain conserves energy by allowing them to fade. The dark room supports this transition through sameness. The ceiling remains unchanged. The shadows along the walls do not suggest form or motion. Nothing in the space invites description. Quiet awareness remains, but it is no longer organized around words. Experience does not need to be narrated to be present. Language processing decreasing during sleep onset is associated with reduced cortical arousal. As alertness declines, the brain prioritizes internal coherence over symbolic representation. Thoughts lose their verbal structure. Concepts no longer form complete sentences. The mind remains aware without needing to translate that awareness into language. Verbal networks reducing activity does not eliminate thought entirely. It changes its form. Without language, cognition becomes less linear. There is no requirement to articulate or explain. Internal experience becomes simpler because it no longer needs to pass through linguistic filters. The environment reinforces this change by remaining silent and dark. There are no sounds to interpret, no visual cues to describe. The room offers no material for language to work with. In this absence, verbal systems naturally disengage. Quiet awareness persists. Darkness remains steady. The ceiling stays still. Shadows remain faint. Nothing interrupts this inward simplicity. The brain recognizes that linguistic processing is unnecessary and allows it to rest. Research into sleep onset consistently shows a decline in verbal thought as rest deepens. Brain imaging studies reveal decreased activation in language-related regions during this transition. This reduction supports overall cognitive quiet by removing one of the most active channels of mental processing. Without language, urgency fades further. Words often carry intention, planning, or evaluation. When they recede, those functions lose their structure. The mind does not need to organize experience into narrative. Awareness can remain present without commentary. The room remains unchanged throughout. Darkness does not fluctuate. The ceiling does not shift. Shadows do not move. This predictability removes the need for labeling. There is nothing new to name. Nothing changes that would require explanation. Verbal networks reduce activity because they are not required. Energy use decreases as these systems quiet. This conservation aligns with the broader pattern already established through reduced stimulation, slowed breath, and emotional neutrality. Cognitive silence does not mean absence. It means simplicity. Internal activity continues, but it is no longer shaped by words. The brain does not need to construct sentences or follow linguistic rules. It remains active in a quieter, less structured way. The dark room continues to support this state. Stillness holds. Quiet awareness remains. Nothing intrudes. Language fades because it has nothing to attach to. This fade is gradual and unforced. Words do not disappear abruptly. They lose prominence. They stop organizing experience. Thought becomes less verbal and more diffuse, without requiring attention. Language processing decreasing during sleep onset is part of a natural progression. As rest deepens, the brain shifts toward modes that do not rely on symbolic representation. Verbal networks reducing activity allows this shift to occur smoothly. The environment does not disrupt this progression. Darkness remains complete. The ceiling stays still. Shadows remain faint. The absence of movement continues. Everything supports the continued quieting of cognition. Quiet awareness remains without needing description. There is no dialogue, no internal narration. Experience does not need to be explained. It simply continues. This cognitive silence builds directly from emotional neutrality. With emotional reactivity low, there is less content for language to process. With stimulation minimal, there is less need for interpretation. Language fades because it is unnecessary. The room remains exactly as it has been. Darkness holds steady. stillness persists. The brain continues to reduce verbal activity, allowing awareness to remain present without words. Nothing changes. Nothing demands articulation. Language continues to soften, receding gently as the environment remains simple and unchanged. Cognitive silence holds, supported by darkness that offers no material for speech, internal or otherwise. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged and steady. The ceiling stays fixed above, offering no variation. Along the walls, faint shadows remain where they have been, soft and unmoving. There is no motion anywhere in the space. Stillness continues without interruption, holding the environment in a consistent, quiet state. Within this steadiness, awareness begins to thin. The hypnagogic transition reduces external awareness as the brain shifts away from monitoring the environment. This transition does not occur at a single point. It unfolds gradually as attention disengages from external reference and turns inward. The room remains visible only in the most minimal sense, not as a set of details, but as a stable presence. Scientific observation shows that during the hypnagogic phase, responsiveness to external stimuli decreases. Sensory information still arrives, but it carries less weight. The brain does not prioritize it for interpretation. External awareness fades because there is no need to respond. The environment has proven itself predictable and unchanged. Thalamic gating increases during this transition. The thalamus further limits the flow of sensory input to the cortex, allowing fewer signals to reach conscious processing. This gating does not block sensation entirely. It filters it, softening perception and reducing clarity. The result is a narrowing of awareness that feels natural rather than abrupt. The dark room supports this shift by remaining exactly the same. The ceiling does not move. Shadows do not change. Nothing introduces contrast or novelty. With no variation to register, the brain does not need to maintain outward focus. External awareness diminishes because there is nothing external demanding attention. Fading awareness does not mean loss of presence. It means reduced engagement. The environment remains, but it no longer occupies the foreground of experience. Stillness becomes the dominant feature, not as an object of focus, but as a condition that requires no response. Research into sleep onset consistently shows increased thalamic gating as awareness shifts inward. This change allows the brain to transition towards sleep by limiting external input. Sensory channels remain open, but their influence weakens. Internal processes begin to take precedence. The steady absence of movement reinforces this process. Movement often signals relevance. Here, nothing moves. The nervous system receives no indication that attention should remain externally oriented. The brain responds by continuing its inward shift. Hypnagogic transition, reducing external awareness, also affects the sense of separation between environment and internal experience. The room does not disappear, but it becomes less distinct. Boundaries soften because they are no longer actively maintained by attention. The ceiling remains present above, but its presence does not require acknowledgement. The shadows along the walls remain faint, offering no new information. Stillness continues to dominate the space. Everything behaves in a way that supports reduced engagement. Thalamic gating increasing allows this state to stabilize. By filtering sensory input, the brain reduces the likelihood that minor stimuli will interrupt the transition. This supports continuity, allowing awareness to fade without disruption. The environment remains aligned with this shift. Darkness stays complete. Stillness persists. Nothing challenges the narrowing of awareness. External cues continue to lose prominence because they offer no variation. This approach toward the sleep boundary is marked by gentleness rather than change. There is no clear moment when awareness switches off. Instead, it thins, becoming less defined. The environment remains constant as awareness gradually withdraws. Scientific studies of the hypnagogic state describe reduced cortical responsiveness to external stimuli. Sounds, light, and movement become less salient. Here, with sound absent and light minimal, that reduction proceeds smoothly. Thalamic gating increases because there is nothing requiring attention. The room continues to exist exactly as it has. The ceiling remains still. Shadows remain faint. Movement remains absent. The environment does not compete with internal processes. This allows the transition to proceed without interruption. Fading awareness does not require effort. It is supported by the same conditions that have guided every previous shift. Reduced stimulation, predictability, and stillness all contribute to the brain's decision to disengage from the external world. As thalamic gating increases, perception becomes less detailed. The room is no longer experienced as a collection of features. It becomes a background presence. External awareness reduces because it is no longer necessary. The hypnagogic transition continues quietly. There is no signal marking its progression. Awareness fades because nothing sustains it. The environment remains unchanged, reinforcing the brain's inward orientation. This approach to the sleep boundary remains gentle and stable. The room does not change. The ceiling stays still. Shadows remain faint. Stillness holds. External awareness continues to recede as thalamic gating increases, allowing the transition towards sleep to unfold naturally and without interruption. Everything remains aligned. Darkness holds. Movement is absent. Awareness continues to soften at the edge of sleep, supported by an environment that remains constant and undemanding. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged and steady. The ceiling rests above without movement or variation. Along the walls, faint shadows stay where they have been, soft and indistinct. There is no motion anywhere in the space. The room does not signal change. It simply continues. Within this stillness, mental activity releases its structure. As sleep onset completes its transition, prefrontal activity decreases. The prefrontal regions of the brain, responsible for organizing thought, planning, and maintaining internal commentary, reduce their output. This change does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds as stimulation remains absent and awareness continues to soften. Scientific observation shows that during sleep onset, thought frequency drops. Ideas no longer arrive in sequence. Internal dialogue loses coherence and then recedes. The systems that normally generate and sustain thought do not disengage through effort. They quiet because the conditions that sustain them are no longer present. The room supports this change by remaining exactly the same. The ceiling does not move. Shadows do not shift. Nothing appears that would require interpretation. With no external cues to process and no internal demand to respond, the brain allows thought to diminish naturally. Prefrontal activity, decreasing, alters the experience of awareness. Without the organizing influence of these regions, cognition becomes less directed. Thoughts do not need to be resolved or completed. They lose their shape because there is no mechanism insisting on structure. Awareness remains, but it is no longer occupied by content. Thought frequency dropping does not mean absence of brain activity. It means that activity is no longer organized into discrete ideas. Neural patterns become slower and less differentiated. The brain continues to function, but without generating the continuous stream of thought that characterizes wakefulness. The dark room remains present throughout this shift. Its unchanged form offers no stimulus that might re-engage cognitive systems. The ceiling stays fixed. Shadows remain faint. Stillness continues uninterrupted. The environment does not compete with internal quiet. Research into sleep physiology consistently shows reduced activity in frontal brain regions during the transition into sleep. This reduction supports mental release by loosening control and evaluation. Without these processes, thought does not persist. It fades because nothing sustains it. Minimal awareness remains, but it is not attached to ideas or language. There is no narrative forming. There is no sequence unfolding. Experience becomes simple because it is no longer mediated by thought. The room exists, but it is not being interpreted. Thought frequency dropping removes urgency. Without thoughts arriving one after another, there is nothing to follow or complete. Awareness does not need to move. It remains where it is, supported by the absence of stimulation. The ceiling continues to rest above, unchanged. The shadows remain faint along the walls. Movement remains absent. The room offers no variation that would invite mental engagement. This consistency allows the brain to maintain its low activity state without interruption. Prefrontal activity decreasing also reduces self-referential processing. The mechanisms that normally maintain a sense of commentary or evaluation quiet. There is no need to label experience. Awareness remains without being directed. Scientific studies of sleep onset describe this stage as one in which cognitive content becomes sparse. Thought frequency drops because neural networks responsible for generating thought reduce their coordination. This change supports the crossing of the sleep threshold without resistance. The environment remains aligned with this transition. Darkness stays complete. Stillness persists. The room does not introduce any signal that would reinitiate thought. Minimal awareness remains sufficient. Mental release is not an action. It is a condition that emerges when thought is no longer required. Reduced prefrontal activity allows this condition to persist. Thought frequency dropping ensures that nothing replaces what has faded. The dark room continues to hold its form. The ceiling remains still. Shadows remain unchanged. Nothing in the space demands attention or interpretation. This allows the brain to remain in a state where thought does not reassemble. There is no narrative unfolding here, no sequence to follow. Awareness does not need to move forward or backward. It remains present without content. As sleep threshold is crossed, the mechanisms that sustain thought remain quiet. Prefrontal activity stays low. Thought frequency remains reduced. Awareness remains minimal, supported by the absence of stimulation and the constancy of the environment. The room does not change. Darkness holds steady. Stillness remains complete. The environment continues to support a state without thought, allowing mental activity to remain diffuse and unstructured. Nothing returns to engage cognition. No ideas form. No language appears. Awareness persists quietly, unoccupied by thought. This state holds without effort. The dark room remains present. The ceiling stays fixed. Shadows remain faint. Movement remains absent. Thought remains unnecessary. Mental release continues, supported by reduced prefrontal activity and low thought frequency. Awareness remains simple and unencumbered, held gently within darkness that does not ask for interpretation or response. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged and steady. The ceiling rests above without movement or variation. Along the walls, faint shadows stay exactly where they have been, soft and indistinct. There is no motion anywhere in the space. Stillness holds without interruption, offering no signal that anything needs to shift. Within this stillness, internal activity continues to loosen. After thought has faded, control is no longer maintained through deliberate coordination. Neural firing becomes less synchronized, a natural change observed as the brain releases structured patterns of activity. Instead of operating in tightly organized rhythms, neural signals begin to drift, spreading out in timing and intensity. This drift does not indicate loss, it reflects transition. When the brain no longer needs to sustain focused awareness or directed thought, synchronization becomes unnecessary. Networks that once worked together closely no longer need to align. Activity becomes quieter and more variable, matching the absence of external demand. Scientific observation shows that as the brain moves away from wakeful processing, coordination between regions decreases. Neural firing becomes less synchronized because there is no central task holding it together. This reduction allows internal systems to disengage from control without disruption. The room supports this release by remaining exactly the same. The ceiling does not shift. Shadows do not change. Nothing introduces structure that would require the brain to reorganize. With no stimulus to respond to, internal activity is free to soften. Slow inner movement continues without direction. It is not a movement toward anything, but a gentle loosening of pattern. Stillness in the environment mirrors this change, offering no resistance and no guidance. The space does not ask for attention. It allows internal processes to proceed without interference. As synchronization decreases, the brain transitions toward non-REM states. This transition is gradual and unmarked by clear boundaries. Activity does not stop. It reorganizes into patterns that do not support conscious control or structured thought. Awareness remains minimal because coordination has loosened. Research in sleep physiology shows that reduced synchronization is a key feature of this transition. When neural firing loses alignment, conscious oversight fades. Control is no longer exerted because there is nothing to control. The system moves forward through release rather than effort. The dark room remains a constant backdrop. The ceiling stays still. The walls remain defined only by faint shadow. Movement remains absent. The environment does not provide cues that would encourage the brain to resynchronize or regain structure. Neural drift supports the emotional role of this section. Release of control does not feel active. It feels like absence. When coordination dissolves, there is no need to maintain order. Internal activity continues, but it is no longer directed or evaluated. This process is supported by the same conditions that allowed thought to fade. Darkness limits input. Stillness removes demand. Silence eliminates interruption. Together, these conditions allow synchronization to loosen without resistance. As the transition continues, internal signals become less predictable. This unpredictability is not disruptive because there is no awareness insisting on coherence. The brain does not attempt to organize these signals. It allows them to exist without alignment. Scientific studies consistently show that as the brain settles into deeper rest, patterns of firing become more independent. Regions communicate less frequently in coordinated bursts. This reduction supports the release of conscious control and evaluation. The room remains unchanged throughout. The ceiling remains steady. Shadows remain faint. Nothing in the space suggests urgency or structure. This consistency allows neural drift to continue without interruption. Slow inner movement continues, but it does not lead anywhere. It is simply the natural outcome of reduced coordination. Stillness outside supports this softness inside. There is no contrast to resolve. Transition toward non-REM states continues quietly. There is no marker announcing it. The brain does not need to know where it is going. It moves through this shift automatically as synchronization decreases. Release of control does not require awareness. It happens because the systems that maintain control are no longer active. Prefrontal influence remains low. Thought remains absent. Coordination continues to loosen. The environment remains aligned with this process. Darkness stays complete. The room remains still. Shadows do not move. Nothing challenges the brain to re-engage or organize. Neural firing becoming less synchronized allows the brain to settle into patterns that do not support conscious oversight. This supports the final release of structured awareness without force. Everything remains as it is. The dark room continues to exist without change. The ceiling stays still. The walls remain faintly outlined. Movement remains absent. Neural drift continues gently. Coordination loosens further. Control remains released. The transition proceeds quietly, supported by an environment that does not ask for attention or response. Nothing interrupts this state. Nothing calls for alignment. Internal activity remains diffuse and unstructured, held within a space that remains steady and undemanding. The dark room persists unchanged. Neural drift continues. Control remains released. The brain moves forward through softness rather than direction, settling quietly beyond thought, within darkness that holds without instruction or demand. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged and steady. The ceiling rests above without motion or variation. Along the walls, faint shadows remain where they have settled, soft and indistinct. There is no movement anywhere in the space. Darkness holds consistently, offering no contrast and no signal that anything needs to be maintained. Within this steadiness, internal experience continues to dissolve. Sensory integration diminishes as the brain reduces its effort to combine information into a unified perceptual field. Vision, sound, and bodily sensation no longer need to align into a coherent picture. With stimulation minimal and coordination already loosened, integration becomes unnecessary. Scientific observation shows that as deep sleep approaches, the brain no longer prioritizes assembling sensory input into a continuous experience. Signals may still arrive, but they are not bound together. Sensory integration diminishing allows perception to lose structure without loss. There is simply less need to form a complete internal model of the environment. Conscious awareness fragments during this phase. Awareness does not vanish at once. It breaks into smaller, less connected moments that no longer sustain continuity. There is no narrative thread holding experience together. This fragmentation reflects reduced coordination across neural systems rather than interruption. The room supports this change by remaining exactly the same. The ceiling does not shift. Shadows do not move. Nothing in the environment offers new information that would require integration. Without variation, there is nothing to bind together. Awareness no longer needs to assemble experience into a whole. Fading sensation accompanies this process. Bodily signals lose clarity as integration diminishes. Sensation does not disappear. It becomes diffuse, no longer organized around distinct boundaries or focus. The steady darkness allows this fading to occur without disruption. Research in sleep physiology shows that as sensory integration decreases, conscious awareness becomes intermittent and fragmented. Neural communication supporting unified perception weakens. The brain no longer maintains a single point of reference. Experience loosens without resistance. The absence of movement reinforces this dissolution. Movement would require integration. Here, nothing moves. The nervous system receives no cue that coordination is needed. Internal systems are free to disengage further. Conscious awareness fragmenting does not produce confusion. There is no awareness present to register fragmentation as a problem. The process unfolds quietly, guided by reduced demand rather than effort. Awareness fades by losing structure, not by being removed. The room remains a constant presence, but it is no longer experienced as a defined space. The ceiling and walls do not disappear, but they no longer require representation. Faint shadows remain without being noticed. Darkness holds without being interpreted. Sensory integration diminishing allows internal systems to operate independently. Signals do not need to align. The brain does not need to reconcile inputs. This independence supports letting go by removing the requirement for coherence. Scientific studies consistently show that during the transition into deep sleep, the brain reduces large-scale integration across regions. Communication becomes local rather than global. This change supports the fading of unified awareness. The environment remains aligned with this transition. Darkness stays complete. Stillness persists. Nothing introduces contrast or novelty. The absence of stimulation allows fragmentation to deepen without interruption. Letting go here is not an action. It is the natural outcome of diminished integration and fragmented awareness. Control has already been released. Now, coherence releases as well. Experience does not need to hold together. The ceiling remains still above. Shadows remain faint along the walls. Movement remains absent. The room does not reassert itself. It remains a stable backdrop as internal structure dissolves. Fading sensation continues without effort. Bodily awareness becomes less distinct. Boundaries soften because they are no longer maintained. Sensory integration diminishing allows this softening to proceed smoothly. Conscious awareness fragmenting reduces the sense of continuity. There is no sequence to follow. Moments do not connect. This lack of connection is not noticed. It simply occurs as coordination fades. The dark room remains present without change. Darkness does not fluctuate. Stillness holds. Everything external remains steady as internal organization loosens further. This deep sleep approach is marked by absence rather than transition. There is no threshold crossed consciously. Sensory integration continues to diminish. Awareness continues to fragment. Letting go unfolds because there is nothing left to hold. Nothing in the environment interrupts this process. No movement appears. No signal arises. The room remains constant, allowing dissolution to continue without resistance. Internal experience becomes simpler by becoming less organized. Sensation fades into background. Awareness fragments and then thins further. The brain no longer maintains a unified state. The dark room persists unchanged. The ceiling remains still. Shadows remain faint. Movement remains absent. Darkness holds quietly as internal coherence dissolves, allowing letting go to complete without announcement or interruption. The dark room remains physically present, unchanged in its quiet structure. The ceiling and walls are still there, faintly outlined, yet no longer actively noticed. Their presence does not disappear, but it no longer requires attention. Familiar outlines remain without change, holding steady in the background. Nothing moves, nothing shifts. Darkness continues without variation. Within this steadiness, reference itself begins to fade. Sensory integration weakens during deep sleep onset, reducing the brain's ability to combine signals into a coherent sense of place. Vision, bodily sensation, and spatial cues no longer need to align. The environment remains, but it is no longer actively assembled into a recognizable frame. Scientific observation shows that as sensory integration weakens, spatial orientation networks reduce activity. These networks normally maintain an ongoing sense of position and boundary. When stimulation is minimal and integration declines, this function becomes unnecessary. Orientation does not vanish abruptly. It loosens, becoming less defined because there is no demand for it. The room continues to exist without change. The ceiling remains above. The walls remain where they have always been. Yet awareness no longer checks or confirms these relationships. There is no need to establish where anything is. The environment has already proven itself stable, and now even that stability no longer requires recognition. Muted bodily presence accompanies this shift. Sensation does not disappear, but it loses clarity. There is no emphasis on position, weight, or boundary. Without movement, there is no need to update bodily reference. The body remains, but it is not actively mapped. Research in sleep physiology consistently shows reduced activity in spatial orientation networks as deep rest approaches. When the brain no longer needs to guide movement or respond to external cues, these networks reduce output. Spatial reference fades because it no longer serves a purpose. Darkness supports this change by offering no visual anchors. Without light, there are no edges to define distance or position. The faint outlines of ceiling and walls remain only as background presence, not as active markers. Awareness does not need to resolve them. As sensory integration weakens further, internal experience no longer organizes around location. There is no sense of here or there that needs maintaining. Reference dissolves because nothing requires orientation. This is not disorientation. It is absence of the need to orient. The room does not reassert itself. The outlines remain faint and unchanged. Darkness does not fluctuate. Stillness continues. The environment behaves exactly as it has, allowing internal systems to disengage from spatial tracking without interruption. Spatial orientation networks reducing activity also reduces the sense of separation between body and environment. Boundaries are no longer emphasized. There is no requirement to distinguish one area from another. Experience becomes simpler by losing structure rather than adding anything new. This supports the emotional role of the section. Final release of active awareness does not come from loss, but from completion. All necessary checks have already been made. The environment is stable. The body is still. Now even the act of maintaining reference can fade. The ceiling and walls remain faintly present. but they do not draw awareness. They exist without being represented. Darkness holds them in the same place, but awareness no longer engages with that fact. Muted bodily presence continues. There is no movement to update, no sensation demanding clarity. Sensory integration weakening allows bodily signals to remain unbound, free from organization. This further supports the release of active awareness. Scientific studies show that as deep sleep onset progresses, the brain reduces large-scale coordination between sensory and spatial systems. This reduction allows experience to lose its frame. Awareness does not track position or boundary because those concepts are no longer needed. The room remains constant throughout. Nothing changes externally. Internally, reference fades because integration has weakened. Spatial orientation networks remain quiet. Awareness no longer organizes itself around space. This absence of reference does not feel like emptiness. It feels like simplicity. There is nothing to locate, nothing to confirm. Darkness removes the need for spatial markers. Stillness removes the need for bodily adjustment. Everything external remains exactly as it has been. The ceiling stays where it is. The walls remain faintly outlined. Darkness remains steady, but awareness no longer holds these elements together into a coherent map. Final release of active awareness continues without signal or transition. There is no new state to recognize. Sensory integration weakens further. Spatial orientation remains quiet. Reference dissolves because nothing sustains it. The environment does not interrupt this process. No movement appears. No change occurs. The room remains present, but it is no longer actively experienced as a room. Darkness continues to hold everything in place. Stillness persists. Bodily presence remains muted. Spatial reference remains unnecessary. Active awareness releases fully, not through effort, but through absence of demand. Nothing returns to anchor perception. The faint outlines remain without meaning. Sensory integration remains weak. Spatial orientation networks remain reduced. Experience no longer requires a frame. The dark room persists unchanged. Darkness remains steady. Stillness holds. Reference remains absent, allowing awareness to release completely, quietly, and without resistance. The dark room remains as it has been, steady and unchanged. The ceiling rests quietly above. The walls hold their faint shadows without movement. Nothing asks for attention. Nothing needs to be held in place. Everything that remains is already settled. There is no need for awareness to return or reorganize. What has softened does not need to be restored. What has faded does not need to be recalled. The environment remains supportive simply by staying the same. Darkness continues without interruption, offering consistency rather than signal. The body remains present without effort. Breath continues without guidance. Internal rhythms maintain themselves quietly. There is no urgency anywhere in the space. Nothing is required to happen next. The room does not change because it does not need to. Stillness remains complete. Darkness remains steady. The absence of movement continues to communicate safety through predictability alone. Nothing remains unfinished. Nothing needs to be checked. Everything necessary has already occurred naturally, without instruction or direction. The quiet that remains is not fragile. It does not need protection. It holds on its own. The space remains calm, undemanding, and familiar. Awareness does not need to follow anything further. It can remain where it is, or soften beyond notice without consequence. Darkness continues to hold the room gently. Stillness continues uninterrupted. Nothing intrudes. Nothing pulls attention back. Good night.